This is the CHRILLCAST. I'm Chris.
I'm Billy.
I'm Ryn.
And she's glitching like the game we're about to talk about.
I was about to say. I'm just Cyberpunk 2077. But in reality.
We were going to talk about spin-off games, but instead we're just going to talk about Cyberpunk because we got a lot to say here. So before we get into Cyberpunk and all of its quirks, we'll call them quirks for fun here. Why don't you guys tell everybody about your channel, starting with Ryn?
Oh, I do like just a whole bunch of random stuff. Just kind of what I feel like doing. I mainly stick to I mainly stick to art, and then playing video games. Just kind of like whatever games I like to play. Yeah.
I really loved this video, by the way. It's hilarious.
I had somebody send this to me, and they're like, I looked at it and I was like, "Can I upload this to the channel?" And they were like, "Yes." And I was like,
All right, Billy, give them a spiel.
You know, every time I come on here, I come with a new sales pitch of my channel. But this time, I'm just gonna say I make 5 reasons videos to play video games, but I'm also working on a really big project right now for Dungeons and Dragons. That's gonna be on a different channel. But yeah, I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I'm really diving into some projects. So, you know, click it if you like weird things.
Billy is the dungeon master.
yeah.
All right, guys. So Cyberpunk 2077. Okay, before we really delve into this thing, what consoles do you guys have it on?
I have it on the PS4 Pro.
Hey, me too.
I have PS5. Okay, hang on. I'm not gonna end there. I have it on PC also with a 2080 graphics card, and so I just want to put it on. I just want to say that first before we go into it.
I love this glitch where the guy doesn't have the gun in that video. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. It was kind of funny.
it's firing like a air gun, like a fake like an air guitar kind of thing. Like, oh, it's there, but it's not.
This is joking.
All right. So as far as the Cyberpunk 2077, before we talk about this game, how hyped were you guys before this game released?
Oh, there we
I
go.
was extremely hyped that I bought not only the statue, but I bought all of the controllers, I bought all of the figures. I was in a pretty good mindset with this game. I was pretty happy about it.
Billy, you didn't even like The Witcher,
Special
so...
edition now. You didn't like The Witcher?
No, okay, hang on. I just think that Geralt is a very hard to like character. That was my only problem. Not a bad game. I just can't. You know when you try to.
Isn't that the point though? Because you're able to change his personality.
Like kind of. It's like really minor. I played through that game twice, and like you can make. I know you make this. Obviously obviously it's an RPG, but like Geralt just has this personality that I'm like no matter what choice I pick, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm this character. It's so hard.
Yeah.
He's cool. Show's cool. The book's fine. Awesome. It's I don't know. The game just kills me, man.
You mean, Billy, you're not a giant ladies man and
No.
have white eyes and white hair and can kill fantastical beasts?
Oh,
He's actually kind of ugly in the books.
Aw.
Like he's
See,
described as like snake-like in the books. He's not supposed to be attractive.
I never actually said he was attractive when I described him.
I
You described him as being attractive.
I said he's a ladies man. I didn't say he's attractive.
A big, white-haired ladies man. That sounds pretty attractive to me.
if he would have looked like the books, I would have liked him more.
Now I'm picturing Gandalf, the White
Witcher 1,
Wizard.
He looks like the book.
See, that's the only one I have. I feel so bad because I'm judging the whole series. That's the only one I haven't played. I played the second, I played the third, but the first has always dodged me.
Here's what I'm picturing when you said a strong, tall, white man, or white-haired man. Gandalf.
I mean, I was also thinking about that, and you know, ladies killer applies to that too. Except for he just doesn't like the ladies, and that's okay.
Fair enough. But yeah, that's what I was picturing when you said a tall man with white hair. I was like, Gandalf the White. All right. So you guys got it on PS4 Pro and PS5. Well, PS4 technically it's all PS4, right? So, but Billy has it and it's playable on the PS5 because there is no PS5 version.
Yeah.
But here's the unique thing though. Billy has had most of the experience on the PS5, correct?
That's the only I just bought it on PC like literally 2 days ago, but I've only played it on PS5 mainly.
I'm assuming, Ryn, most of your playtime's been on a TV on the PS4 Pro directly, right?
Yeah.
The bulk of my playtime has been on the PS Vita with remote play.
Oh, okay.
So we
Well,
have
that's-
3 different experiences.
How did that work? I'm very excited.
All right, so what are your first impressions of Cyberpunk 2077?
Ryn, I'll let you go first, man. I will absolutely.
Okay.
I'm gonna dive into crazy.
So I guess when I first got into it, I thought it was like I haven't played much into the game. I haven't even finished the intro or whatever, but I thought it was like cool. I guess like I didn't really get hyped for the game. It was just like the day it came out, there was an extra copy at the store I work at, and I was like, I'll get this. And then the fact that people were just talking about the glitches made it like an extra bonus. With my experience with the game, like the character creator was kind of cool. I couldn't find a way to make an attractive character, so instead I just made a really ugly one. Like every time I tried to make an attractive one, they just looked ugly. So instead I was just like, okay, whatever, I'll make just an ugly character. Some of the glitches in the game killed me. Like I crouched when I was scanning, and then I uncrouched and I flew into the air. When I stopped scanning, I fell to my death, and that's just a thing. I think the NPCs could use work. I went into like the first time I was able to walk around, or the first time I remember walking around like in the streets and stuff. I just went to like a random cop on the streets, shot him in the head, and like there's like 3 other cops around me. They went to come chase me, and then I walked like 2 feet, and then they just forgot I existed, I guess. I don't know. So that was interesting, and that's where I stopped playing.
So like PS1 AI, no?
Yeah, no, like really. They were like, all right, I guess our friend's dead. And I was like, cool.
It's like, it's all good. Whatever. We didn't need that
Like,
guy.
It's funny. I kind of wish, like, if you had your weapon drawn too, they'd notice it. Because I had my, like, gun, like, because I didn't know whether, like, I could shoot him in the face and whether I wanted to do that yet. So I just sat there for, like, a good minute or two deciding whether I wanted to shoot this random NPC cop in the face. Decided to in the end, but...
So, you can always save before you do that and then, revert if you have to.
That's no fun.
No,
Live with your
that's the
decisions, huh?
decisions.
Should I or shouldn't I? Oh, well, I'll just reset. Let's do it. Okay. Billy, what about you?
Okay. I'm going to tell you a really quick story of my first impression. So I love Mass Effect. Mass Effect's one of my favorite games of all time. I'm very excited that the remaster is coming out, even though half of the team left, and I'm very sad about that. Anyway, so going into Cyberpunk, I had no interest in it. I was very I didn't care. It looked like I was very not excited about The Witcher. That I was like, CD Projekt Red. I don't think I'm gonna be into Cyberpunk when it comes out. I went to. With a company I worked at previously, I went to a big conference where they had a playable demo of Cyberpunk, and I love talking to people, so I was sitting in the front of this conference, and like they were like going, oh yeah, like here's the game, like it's so cool, da da da, and everybody around me was like, oh it's so cool, like it's so awesome, and I was like I didn't care. I was just like, you could tell on my face, I was like, I just want to get to the next area to play something else. And then the guy that was like doing the demo was like, hey, do you are you interested in this at all? And, started talking to me. I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, not really. Like it looks cool, but no. And he was like, all right, cool, we'll try the 5-minute demo. And I was like, oh, what? And then he let me do it. And this is a year before the game came out. And I played that 5-minute demo for probably 30 minutes. I kept replaying that 5-minute demo. And after that, I started really diving and looking into the game, and I love the atmosphere it gives off. I love the messed up future vibe it gives. I love being able to play in a game that's showing off the future, but not showing off the future in the light of oh, technology is so good and everybody's happy and it's a great society. It shows off the messed up things that happen if you get bad tech implants, or the different things you can do to knock people out, or basically weapons in the future, the Manus blades that they use in their arms. It just, to me, it looked like Mass Effect meets Fallout meets I don't want to say Grand Theft Auto because everybody says that, but a futuristic Grand Theft Auto. And I I was really excited, and I'm still excited. I don't care what anyone says. It's a great game, but we'll dive into it more.
So my experience, since we've already kind of discussed this a little bit, was on actually remote playing via the PS Vita, because if I'm going to play this game during the daylight hours at all, I don't want it on the big screen where my toddlers and whatnot can see it full view. So I've been playing it in bits and pieces on my Vita, which, by the way, the max screen resolution of the Vita is like a 540p screen. So like it's already dumbing down from the 4K on the PC down to what PS4 Pro can do, which is like 1080p, down to remote play, which is 540p. And it looks really good on the Vita screen. I can honestly say, like, I've had zero issues at 540p running this game. I don't know if that's like a good it's like,
Yeah, good thing.
I recommend this game because 540p looks great. Just go get a CRT and downgrade it from HDMI. No, the interesting thing with the Vita and the PS4 and everything else is every game that came out for the PS4, it was like in the license for getting your game on the platform that it had to be remote playable on the Vita, and then they just didn't market the Vita at all. But I was curious when I first booted it up. I was like, will I be able to play this on the Vita or not? Will it be playable? Well, the answer is yes. It is fully playable, and it actually plays really well on the Vita. So well that, in fact, that I wish PS Now was still a thing, and I just wouldn't have a PS4. I would just remote play everything. But no, the PS Vita, it plays really well on there, which is surprising. But I did get the patch the day, week, whatever patch it was before I played it. So I may have missed the initial bugs with remote play if there were any. But what I will say is my initial impression of the game when I booted it up was, man, this feels like Mass Effect meets Grand Theft Auto. Like, that's literally what I was thinking. And I don't really like Grand Theft Auto. I know I'm in like the minority on that. I really don't like those games that much, but Mass Effect I love. So like that was very appealing to me. That and Keanu Reeves is in the game somewhere, and I haven't found him yet. But I do think picking the path right at the beginning where you don't really understand the world at all. They're like, hey, you want to be this big shot for a company or be this person out on the range or somewhere in the middle. That was kind of a weird starting point for me, not knowing the city at all. Like, it would have been kind of cool to have a visual representation of the city and like the different parts of the city, the slum, the rich, whatever you want to call it, the business oriented section, whatever. Maybe a flyover of that would have been cool before I decided, hey, I'm going to be the rich guy jerk who gets kicked out of the company for aligning with the character in the beginning. I don't know. But I read the book Hardwired. I don't know if any of you guys have, but Hardwired is the setup for Cyberpunk 2020, the D&D game, and that is the setup for Cyberpunk 2077. So from what I understand, the storyline of Cyberpunk 2077 has quite a bit of alignments with the book, and I'm still waiting to get to those alignments because I haven't seen it yet. But the story they described, I was like, oh, that'd be really awesome if they actually follow that storyline, because it would be really cool to see that in real life. So that was my experience so far. It's just I've played a few hours of the game, all via remote play. I haven't experienced any glitches yet. So next thing is, what glitches have you seen, even if you haven't experienced them yourself? And do you care about the glitches? Like, should this game have been significantly delayed, or do you not care?
I mean, so apart from like I don't know, the NPCs not exactly being intelligent or me dying because I crouched and uncrouched. I know like some people have had it where they're just playing and then all of a sudden they're like Dingling will plop out of their costume, suit, outfit. And I like when he told me that, it was a customer that walked in the store. I looked at him and I was like, "You just don't look down there, dude. Just don't look. It's fine." And he goes, "Man, I don't want to see that every time." I was like, "Just don't look. It's fine. Like, you just don't look." And he's like, "Just shut up." And I was like, "Yeah, see, it's chill." I think I'm kind of torn. I think this game should have definitely been delayed because I know there have been major glitches that go past just like the funny, like, oh, this car looks like a piece of Play-Doh, to like stuff where it's like, oh, I just crashed my save file. And that can suck, especially if you've been playing for hours, even if it does autosave. I think this game definitely should have been delayed. Now, that being said, I can also see why they didn't delay it, especially since they delayed it by like 2 weeks, and the outcry of that was so big, which irritates me so much. Like I hate it when people outcry because a game has been delayed, only because I've been so like burned so badly on games that should have been delayed. Um, like that could have just used that extra like 3 or 4 months just to like really make it really really good. But their major downfall is when they like announced that this game was going to be a thing, is that they announced it for being for the PS4 when they should have just announced it to be a PS5 exclusive game, which would have sucked for people who can't get the PS4 day one. But it would have been better in terms of like quite literally everything else, because the game would have just run better, it would have gotten better reviews, like people would have been happier with the game. The company might not be going under right now if they just would have like at least waited a couple of months until like maybe around summertime when more people have the PS5 to release the game. And that's just my opinion.
What about you, Billy? Where are you at with this one?
Oh, let's do this. All right. So Ryn, you touched on so many things that like I agree with. No. I'm completely cool with it. Like my biggest thing with their glitches is like I'm gonna be in the minority. Like I think that it was really a product of like okay, let me rephrase. So all the glitches, like going from the saving corrupting, going from like for me, like I couldn't drive past like 20 miles an hour without my game crashing. Like again, there was such a wide variety, but going back to the main issue at hand, like the game shouldn't have been released. Like it straight up shouldn't have been released. And with all of the glitches that came from it, like it was like hearing the community just trash these creators before the game came out and being like, oh, you delayed it. And they delayed it 4 times, like overall. Like that was like the main from like I think it was April to September to November to December. And instead they should have just took an extra year. They should have just took like an extra 2 years to finish the game. But not to get too far off the main question, like I have seen like a ton of different glitches that have like gone from for my like just in my experience, like the game's crashed if I go faster than 20 miles an hour. My character has lost his head just straight up while I'm like literally the head animation would stay in one spot and my character would just walk away. And like I put a hat on and then my head disappears. I've put any clothing article in my body has disappeared. But yeah, I mean, again, like I don't think that like I think a lot of it rests on CD Projekt Red for releasing the game the way they did. But I also think that we have this like tenacity to call out developers for wanting to. It's the same thing I yelled about in my video I made about it. Like I don't think that like the community should treat the developer like they have an obligation to release this game to us like early. I think it's more of, okay, they should release it when the game comes out, or we can just have every sports game that comes out at the same time every year and see the 10 million problems that they come out with, just as like the reason they're not making WWE 2K21 because they had so many issues, or 22 because they had so many issues with the last one. But again, like I don't fault all, like I don't place all of the blame on CD Projekt Red for this. I don't. I blame half of the community and I blame half of the reviewers that didn't even play like an hour of the game and then just trashed it for minor reasons compared to things that like seeing the gem in this like terrible mess. I don't know. That's my thing on the glitches, I guess.
I see this game being kind of like how No Man's Sky first started out. I think that's what it was. Where like they just kept promising and promising and promising different things into the game that would have been really, really cool. But when the game actually released, all of it just came to like, it was just like none of what they originally promised was actually really in the game. So they got review bombed, like hardly any copies sold, but they kept trying with the game. And that's to me what's important. Like when a company is like less about making money and more about like wanting to output a good game. Like if you go back to No Man's Sky now, everything that was initially supposed to be in the game is in the game now for free. It's not added DLC that you have to pay for. And I think that's what's cool about No Man's Sky. But it's also like an unfortunate thing because in reality, they either should have delayed it or they shouldn't have promised what they did promise. And that's like both the developers of No Man's Sky's fault and then the people's for having such high expectations. And that's how I feel about Cyberpunk 2077, is that people, they were being kind of assholes for like just harking on the developers so much about the game being delayed over and over and over again, to the point where I'm sure CD Projekt Red just couldn't feel like they just couldn't feel like they could prevent the game from like being delayed again. I don't know. That's just like that's how I feel about the game.
No, that's the same feeling I have completely. So
I'll jump in here then. I think this is a good point for me to jump in with what I was going to say. A lot of people, I think, have forgotten the fact that CD Projekt Red is not a console development company.
Yeah.
They are almost an exclusively PC first developer. And if you look back at their Witcher games, Witcher 1 is still a PC exclusive game. Mm-hmm. They sent it off to get ported to a company that literally took them for all the money they could and never released the port to console. So Witcher 1 is stuck on PC indefinitely, and I don't think CD Projekt Red actually trusts anybody to port it at this point in time. Number 2 was also a PC first game released on there. They nailed all the bugs, got rid of them, and then released it for the Xbox 360 as an enhanced edition. Mm-hmm. Number 3, I believe, also debuted on the PC first, and then a year or two after that, they jumped it on everything else. But I'm going to verify that before I make that point. Let me see. I want to make sure I'm right about this.
I think like another thing is that CD Projekt Red, they're actually a really small development team too. Like they're like the third of a size of any regular AAA game, which is quite impressive considering that they've made this game as like, because it's still an impressive game. Like it's still a beautiful game when everything loads properly.
I take back what I said. It did launch on PS4 and Xbox One on the same day, but I didn't play it till it came out on the Switch. So all the bugs should have been allegedly worked out by then. I would think. So
well, I think like the Switch is an entirely different thing too. Like because I saw a lot of rumors saying about this game coming out for the Switch, and I was like, no, don't. If this happens, do not buy this game because you will not be able to play it. Not in the current state, and it has less to do with the fact that the game is that bad, and more to do with the fact that the Switch is just not as powerful as the PS4 or the Xbox One.
Outer Worlds was so good. It was such a good port.
Really good.
No, I heard that was really bad, wasn't it? Right up the gate.
It wasn't terrible. It was a very bad port.
No, yeah.
It did not do well.
The game's really good though. But yeah, no. Like The Witcher, Outer Worlds, like just stuff like that just does not do well on the Switch, and it takes a while for it to do well on the Switch. Like I think The Witcher actually has gotten a lot better since it's first released on the Switch. But I was like, you're gonna load up the game, and the game's just gonna read error, can't play on Switch, sorry. And then you're gonna go to your local GameStop and complain to the employees, and they're gonna be sad.
And they're gonna be like, we can't take back a DLC code, sorry.
And they're like, okay, do you want $5 in store credit?
Listen, I had to be on the other end of these conversations, man. I just want all y'all to know, man.
I mean, I kind of have to be on the other end. It's just instead I offer $5 more than GameStop does.
She works for a mom and pop game store.
Yeah.
Good. In another episode, I will get all on how I support that.
Oh, thank you.
Let me see here. I'm gonna go roll back to what I was saying though. So, CD Projekt Red is definitely a PC first developer, and I think had they stuck to releasing this on the PC via Steam Early Access, and then ironed out these bugs for a year, I think people would have forgiven the release in the state it was in.
Oh yeah, I think that's actually a really smart idea. That's what they should have done.
Or like an alpha or a beta or something like that. Like do a year-long beta, give people a $20 discount if they buy in right away, because PC is such a much smaller base of what is going to play this game, considering it's coming to consoles at the time that they were talking about releasing it and what day it was going to get released on. And in that aspect...
like much more of a thing recently. Like a lot of people are buying PCs.
But the amount of people that are willing to jump into a beta that costs money is a lot lower than
Oh well, yeah.
people that are willing to pay for a nice PC and buy the game when it's ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine the crowd's much smaller. So I think that is what they should have done. I mean, they are definitely they're PC first developer. That is clear as day with The Witcher 1, Witcher 2, and even The Witcher 3 is better on PC than anything else. And on top of that, Cyberpunk was a brand new thing for them. Brand new, everything about The Witcher 3, the Cyberpunk 2077 was brand new to them. They didn't have the world that Garrett, I can't even say his name. They didn't have the Witcher world. I'm not gonna say his name now because I screwed it up twice already.
You don't have to say his name, Chris.
I'm not going to, because I got made fun of the last time I did it on this podcast and I said the G wrong. They don't have a whole built up universe of The Witcher to play off of here. They're doing their own thing. They've rebuilt every asset. I mean, this is a brand new environment for them to be working inside of. And in my opinion, releasing it in the state that it was in on console players don't forgive that. PC players are more forgiving, I think, than console players are. Because you put something into your console, you expect it to work. That's just how people are geared with consoles. You put something into your PC, you never know what's going to happen. You might have to troubleshoot for a little while, install DirectX 12. Oh, wait, nope. Go back to number 11. Like, you kind of expect these things on PC. You don't expect these things on a console. Like, a console, you just expect to plug it in and it works. That's why the Halo MCC had such a lot of backlash when it first released, because it did not work right out the gate. So
now I will say something that did irritate me about CD Projekt Red, and this is probably the only thing that I'm like, because this is really shitty of them to do. When after all of this happened, they made a release, like they made like a statement. They were like, okay, if you're not happy with the game, like get a refund. But when they really went into that, they were like, you don't get a refund through us, you get a refund from wherever you bought the game, which is okay for retailers like GameStop. But when you work at a place like where I work, where you're only making like $5 profit off of one game, it really sucks. And it can really, like, not, it didn't happen to us, luckily. Like, nobody came in for a refund. But the fact that they went like, we made a shitty game, we sold it to you, and now we expect the people to go to you about refunds instead of going through them is kind of shitty. And that was like my only, like, at first when I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool of them to do. And then like I went into work the next day and my boss was like, man, that kind of sucks what like CD Projekt Red did. And I was like, oh, yeah, that does kind of suck.
Yeah.
I know they had like even touching on that, like my local heroes at the GameStops that I used to run with, like they weren't even like, they were getting so many people flooding in there trying to return it, and people, they couldn't, like they weren't allowed to return it. It was open. And it would suck too, because like I know like other companies had that same issue, but I guess like with GameStop, or at least the people that were working there, like corporate, as far as I know, I can't speak for them because I do not work for them, but as far as I know there was a big miscommunication in terms of like CD Projekt Red saying that, and then like Best Buy, GameStop, all these places like, well, we don't offer that, like I don't know what you guys want us to do. Which is crazy. Again, like I agree with you. I like that CD Projekt Red kind of came back way after the fact, and was like, you can just contact our email by December 21st. But like, it was way too late by then, and so many people were already so upset.
In their initial statement, they were like, yeah, no, just go to the person who sold you the copy, and if they say no, then come to us. And I was like, no, they should just come to you. Why would we have to go to, like, what? No. Like, you're the one that made the game that doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's definitely a fair criticism. I did not realize the impact of that. I do know this, that Xbox and PlayStation had it removed from their stores because they didn't want to deal with any more purchases that would cause that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, oh yeah, just ask for a refund, like we're just not gonna sell this anymore.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do refunds, we're just not gonna sell it, like, forget you. Which honestly,
God.
The Witcher 3 is, I mean, look at this. There were a lot of glitches in The Witcher 3, and that was a game that had 2 games prior. Cyberpunk 2077 was a brand new game by this publisher that had never been, like, they'd never been in this world before. And The Witcher 3 is a series they'd been long running, and they still had glitches in that. And on top of that, the resurgence of this game was partially because of Cyberpunk 2077 and the release on the Switch, because people would play it on Switch like, oh, well, what is this like on Xbox, on PlayStation, on whatever weird Linux console you're playing on, I don't know. And so given that, you go back and you think, oh, this game worked right out the gate, but no, it released in 2015, and this is the kind of stuff we were dealing with in 2015. Looks pretty familiar to me. And
we also have like New Vegas, like that had a crap ton of really bad glitches too when it first came out. Especially for console. Less so to do with PC, but especially for console.
And given that though, like you look back with these, you know, graduation goggles thinking like, oh, but The Witcher 3 was great, why isn't Cyberpunk 2077 great? And then you look back and like, no, wait, this didn't release perfect either. Like none of these games release perfectly working out of the box from this publisher. And most likely the reason is they just don't experience these bugs in-house all the time. And I'm sure CD Projekt Red saw some of these Cyberpunk ones in-house before they launched it, but you don't always see all these bugs until you hit, you know, mass release.
I think that's what we need to remember as like consumers. Not justifying Cyberpunk, but like just saying in a way of like I think we get so wrapped up that everything needs to be perfect, and like we have such high expectations for all these new games, like, and we even hold them to like Grand Theft Auto like aspects where we think like they have the same size team or they have the same budget or they have like all these things, and truthfully like it's just about like the passion for it, I guess, and it's just about like we should like, yeah, there's gonna be bugs, yeah, there's gonna be glitches, but like even talk about New Vegas. That's one of my favorite games of all time. And can I straight up say that game has like crashed or like had a lot of issues? Yeah, wholeheartedly. But it's still a fantastic game, and people need to, I don't know, just look past things like that, I guess.
No, I think like at some point there's like a consumer like I'm trying to think of a word.
Critical mass reception. I don't know.
Well, no, like at some point a consumer responsibility. Like if it's like 2 or 3 weeks past a game's release date and you know that these glitches are happening for a game, like then you need to like, part of it's your fault. Like I mean, like I'm not gonna lie, like if you know these glitches are happening, like then do you think you're gonna be the fancy person that doesn't get any? I don't know. Like, and that's just like there's definitely still some definitely still some like CD Projekt Red like responsibility you need to put on them too. But if you're spending $60 on a game that you have read countless and countless of times that has so many glitches in it, then that's partially your fault, because I mean you just don't need to be spending that 60 on the game. Then you just need to wait.
I agree with that.
Yeah, there's got to be at some point the consumer should be held to some accountability for buying a game that they were aware. I mean, clearly, you know, 90-year-old grandma probably doesn't know what Cyberpunk 2077 even is, and if she buys that for, you know, little Billy, then the employee of the store should be like,
thank you,
hey, maybe you shouldn't buy this for Billy.
Please send me all the copies.
Rated M. No, I think the only part where I think it can suck is if you pre-ordered the game.
Yeah, like if you pre-ordered it, I think that you can hold the developer accountable for at least misleading marketing at least. But I think if you've already gotten to this point where we are right now, if you buy the game today, I think you're responsible for that. Like, you have made your bed. Now you got to sleep in it. You know what I mean? So let me see here. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about. Do we think this game, given everything going on right now, will eventually be a great game?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
as long as the developer doesn't completely go under.
Yeah, no, see, that's the problem. That's the main problem, is that I'm more afraid that the company is just gonna die, as opposed to like the game not doing well. Like I have no reason for the game not to do great in the end. I'm just afraid people aren't going to give it the second chance that it deserves.
I mean, I think Ryn said it best earlier. Like, look at No Man's Sky. Like, it's you know, now it's something fantastic, and I think a lot of people like myself, and I like to think there's a lot of like-minded people out there that are like, this is a good game. This is a really good concept. This is a team. Whether I believe that the head of Cyber or CD Projekt Red had great aspirations, I know their team is very, very dedicated to the passion of gaming, and I hopefully want to see some really cool updates, and it'll easily make my top 5 game list, like wholeheartedly.
Yeah, my top 5 game. It won't make my top 5 game list, but it's definitely somewhere up there. It's a good game. Mass Effect is the only game of this style that will ever reach my top 5 games ever made, but it could be in like the top 10, top 20 games I've ever played, especially of the last decade, because there's not as many good games in the last decade for sure. Like a lot of my favorite games are the previous decade prior to the 20 teens. But I think this game will eventually be good and even maybe great, especially if it follows the storyline that I read the entire book of, which is uncommon for me to read books anymore nowadays. But I did read this one. Hardwired was a fantastic book. And Billy, if you do a Cyberpunk D&D campaign based on Cyberpunk 2020, that could be.
Will you join me for it, Chris?
Maybe I would think about it.
Will you have some? Oh, I'll write it. I'll start writing it today. I got nothing to do.
But I do think this game will be great at some point, and I think that Cyberpunk 2078 may be even better. Or maybe it'll end up being, I don't know, Cyberpunk 7000. Who knows what year they'll pick next if they do another one.
God.
But it's not, it's not Bethesda, so we're not gonna have a Fallout 76 situation.
Oh my goodness.
No, that was a great game, man. Eventually,
when it became $3, it might have been worth it.
No, $3, no NPCs. What a deal! I like it.
I saw it at Meijer, like literally, like, and a PS5. I saw 2 PS5s in the wild at Meijer. By the way,
That's really impressive.
I had put in a private group message like, hey, does anybody want one? I'll buy it and then you can pay me back. Only people that like I know really well that I thought might want one. I knew Billy already had one, so
thank you for thinking of me. I love you for that.
I texted Will and he said Xbox for life, homie.
Oh, buy it to break it.
Anyways, do you guys have anything else you want to say about Cyberpunk? Do we cover everything? Do we get our bases all set here?
I feel like I've covered everything that I want to say.
Did you get your headphones on there yet? Did you find a pair like the ones you wear, or no? The headphones that you wear in your streams and stuff. Did you find a pair in the game that you can put on your character?
Oh, I mean, I haven't even played enough. Like I said, the last thing I did was shot a cop, and the NPCs just sat there.
Because I tried to find, like my exact clothing and I couldn't. So
yeah, that was right after you talked to the big honcho guy in the car for 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
He lets you out, and I think you're supposed to go do something, but instead I just shot somebody.
Forget this.
Because he was just standing there. He was standing there. That's on him.
She's like, I'm just like, this guy is giving me all the missions. Okay, he's dead. All right, I'm gonna go do what I want. Sorry.
It just looked like a nice bullet would go. It just looked very fashionable.
Like Will said it in the previous episode. He's like, you know those faces that you just want to punch? Well, this guy didn't have one of those or something. Do you know those faces you just want to, Well, yeah, he's done. Sorry. No, I was just thinking about customization and whatnot, and they had promised so much. I just didn't know if you had found a pair of headphones like what you have or anything special in the game that item wise. But you're saying that you're only as far as you've killed somebody you shouldn't have, and you're not sure what to do next at this point with that.
I mean, it wouldn't matter anyways. My character's so ugly.
I did really want to have my character have green skin, but they didn't offer that, so I can't make my orc or my goblin.
I haven't played Mass Effect all the way through. that's the first thing I did was spend like 3 hours making the ugliest character I could. So then like I heard like Mass Effect's like very story based and that your character's like appearance happens a lot. So every time they were in a cutscene, I laughed so hard because it was always like something super serious, and my character came out walking like a little gremlin. It's so funny.
That character creator was bad, man. I love Mass Effect, but their character creator was terrible.
Well, I made a character that actually looked like me in Mass Effect 1, I think. And the first cutscene rolled up, and I realized the mistake I made because of his teeth were just so effed up. It was like he was talking and his teeth were like inside of his lips somehow, and his eyes looked like he was possessed by a demon, and I was like, oh god, what happened?
That's the problem. Like you think you have a great character in Mass Effect, and then you watch them in the cutscene, and you're like, oh god, like why? Like, why did you come out like that?
Frankenstein's monster.
I played Dead Space the other day for the first time, and I really expected my character to look really cool and badass. And then when I like the first appearance he makes, he just looks like a 40-year-old man working like an office job with some grandkids. And I was like, man, this is who I'm playing as. It kind of like disappoints me. I searched him up in the other two games. He actually looks normal, but I was like, man, I am not happy that I'm this guy.
Fair enough. I do wish that there was more range in the body size department for Cyberpunk, because like it's like either you're ripped or there's like no other option.
I mean, you're ripped or you're just kind of cool.
Like there's no like I can't be like some 500-pound guy like rolling down the city. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have like a really large man.
Could you imagine the glitches then? Oh my god, you would just look like Play-Doh all the time. Like you wouldn't even spawn. Your character would just be a sack of Play-Doh walking through the street.
Just like rolling, like we got Katamari Damacy going on. Just absorbing everything, the gravity of his physics. Like, anyways, with that, as always, I'm Chris.
And I'm Billy.
And I'm Ryn.
And we will see you on the next episode of CHRILLCAST 77. Bye, guys.